morning. Senate Republicans head into the 4th of July without a deal on health care. The House Intel Committee looking for answers from a key figure in the Obama administration. And protecting our borders. Congress gets tough on illegal immigration. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith in for Maria Bartiromo, and this is Sunday Morning Futures. Well, the holiday weekend, it's here, and there is no Senate Republican deal yet on health care. Is reforming Medicaid the key? Senator Pat Toomey helped work on the Senate bill. He'll join us live. Also, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice agrees to testify before the House Intel Committee. What role, if any, did she play in revealing the names of Trump campaign officials in intelligence reports? I'll talk to former House Intel Chairman Pete Hoekstra. And the fight against illegal immigration. The House passes a pair of bills to make Americans safer, but will they survive the Senate to become law? I'll be joined by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. President Trump issuing a major challenge to Republican senators to repeal Obamacare now and replace it at a later date if they can't strike a deal on more comprehensive legislation. This as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell works behind the scenes to hammer out a new draft bill after scrapping the previous version for lack of support. Joining me now, Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey. He worked on the bill. He also serves on the Senate Finance, Budget, and Banking committees. Senator, good to have you this morning. I have to ask you first, where are you at with this? Where are negotiations at as of this morning?
Sandra, I'm having some audio difficulty. I'm only hearing a little bit of what you've said, but I think the question is, where are we right now on our bill? And the answer is it's still a work in progress. There are a handful of Republican senators who are not on board with this draft, and there's a big effort to get everybody on board. We owe it to the American people to move in a different direction. Obamacare has failed us terribly. It continues to fail. And we need to move in a different direction. This bill takes us a big step in the right direction. So I'm hoping that we'll get the consensus we need and get the support so that we can pass this after the 4th of July break.
We have heard the president, Senator, pushing for the repeal now, possibly replace later. How does that sit with you?
I'm sorry. I think the question was about doing this in two steps.
Yep.
And if that's the question, look, that was the original plan. Do a repeal with an effective date at some point in the future and use the time in between to develop the consensus, to try to persuade our Democratic colleagues to finally work with us, to also make changes in regulations. I'll be okay with that approach. I think that could still work, but I'm not sure we've got the votes to pass that approach. I think not.
We're going to try to get ourselves through this audio problem. So thank you so much, Senator. I know you're trying your best to get through that. So let me hit on what has been a major sticking point, it seems, and that is Medicaid spending. This is something that you have been addressing. It came up in the CBO report. Where are you at with that? Because even Republican opponents of the GOP bill are taking issue with this. Can you just simplify for us, what is your plan exactly with Medicaid spending?
So here's what we do with Medicaid in the bill. And first, let's remember what Obamacare did. Obamacare created a new category of eligible Americans that had never been eligible for Medicaid before, and that is working age, able-bodied adults with no dependents. So what our bill does is says, okay, we'll accept that expansion. We will acknowledge, we'll make that category of people permanently eligible for Medicaid. But what we'll also do, though, is rather than the federal government paying 90% and state governments paying only 10%, we're going to gradually transition over 7 years to where the states are paying their fair share, as they do for the other categories of eligibility. It takes 7 years to get there, but this is absolutely necessary to put Medicaid on a sustainable path. And then the last thing we do is 8 years from today, we begin to slightly slow the rate at which Medicaid grows so that hopefully this program, which has been growing out of control, will be under control. Our economy can keep up with it. We can make it sustainable for the future and avoid a fiscal train wreck. So that's what we do. We make the Medicaid expansion permanent. We ask the states to pay their fair share, and we make the program sustainable by slightly slowing the rate at which it grows.
So how do you address critics, some even within the GOP, who say it's still a cut? And we just got the score from the CBO, who concluded that Medicaid would spend 26% less and cover 15 million fewer people in 2026 if the bill passes in its current form. They say it's still a cut in the bill's current form.
I think I heard you lead into this attack from folks, including some on my side of the aisle, who suggest that apparently, according to them, you can never do anything to make this program sustainable. I just totally disagree. What we know for sure is if we leave it on the path it's on now, we will have a fiscal crisis. Our deficits will balloon to the point that they're completely unmanageable. We don't know exactly the day on which the crisis occurs or how long it will last or how draconian the cuts to these programs will have to be if we insist that we're simply going to do nothing and let it grow out of control. I think the only responsible thing to do is exactly what we do in this bill. Pick a date in the future, and from that date forward, have the program grow at a slightly slower rate than it would otherwise grow. That's the way you solve these entitlement problems that we have.
All right. So the latest Suffolk University poll this week, Senator, showed that more than 80% of the American people say it's very or somewhat important that low-income people maintain their Medicaid coverage under any health care bill that is passed. Nearly 3/4 of Republicans agreed. So why can't you get more on board with your thinking on this?
I think this has not been well explained. There are a lot of senators who are still wrestling with the details, or some senators, Republican senators, who are not yet supportive. And then there's been wildly inaccurate and dishonest characterization. Some are suggesting that we're somehow jeopardizing Medicaid or throwing people off. Completely untrue. Under our bill, federal spending on Medicaid will grow every single year forever. I mean, in perpetuity. So We've got to make sure the facts are known. We've got to explain this. And as we do, people will understand that we're actually going to make Medicaid sustainable and viable rather than doing any harm to that program. And I think people will appreciate our approach.
Where are you at with Ohio Senator Rob Portman? Historically, it appears that you've gotten along in the past, but apparently a heated debate, Fox confirms, happened this week with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Rob Portman. McConnell pushing to try to slow the growth of Medicaid spending, like you are suggesting. Portman accusing leadership of overreaching with this bill. How do you reach out to Portman?
Well, look, let me just be as clear as I can. I think the world of Rob Portman. I have tremendous respect for him. He's a great senator. He comes with a terrific background. He's very smart. He does his homework, and he represents the people of Ohio. Now, we're going to disagree about some policies, and there are some aspects of this bill on which he and I disagree. But the fact is we work together, and we're working together to try to reach a consensus.
All right. And as far as the timing of all of this is obviously crucial. We know what the president has
timing
suggested.
Is still.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The audio continues to come and go. So let me just on timing. We'll be back next week with some more information because various moving pieces in this bill will have CBO scores, Congressional Budget Office accounting, quantification of the cost. And as we get that additional information, hopefully we'll be able to put the pieces together and reach a consensus within the next couple of weeks.
All right. Senator Pat Toomey, thank you for hanging in there. I know we had some audio issues. You're a real trooper. Thanks for joining us live this morning. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice set to go before the House Intel Committee. Well, lawmakers want to ask her as she testifies behind closed doors. And remember, you can follow us at Sunday Futures. Stay with us as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures.